The brain and the heart are probably the two most vital organs in the human body. They're absolutely essential for the most basic functions of human beings. Yet it seems like they pull us in separate directions all the time. The brain looks at things objectively, sees things for what they are, while the heart follows its passions, its dreams. And these things usually exist on opposite ends of the spectrum, creating some sort of turmoil from within. As kids, we dream. It's all we do. Dream about anything and everything imaginable. That characteristic is what makes kids so pure and innocent. But for whatever reason, as we grow, the heart takes a backseat to the brain in favor of logic and reasoning. We dream smaller and think realistically. We enter the rat race of life and kind of fall in line with everyone else as our lives become mundane and the color of life becomes muted. I'm not saying either the brain or heart is necessarily better than the other, but this is a phenomenon that happens regularly, sort of like an unfun coming-of-age ritual. Oftentimes, when faced with a decision, we have to go with our hearts or our minds. And I think that Aang's character from the very beginning exemplifies this scenario perfectly. When Aang is only 12 years old, he has the title of Avatar placed onto him. It's important to remember that this isn't something that he chose to be. This was simply the hand he was dealt by life. And when presented with that hand, he had two choices: embrace his role as the Avatar and all the responsibilities that came with it, or run away and continue to be a carefree kid. As you could expect from any 12-year-old, he chooses to run away and hide from the responsibility of being the Avatar. He just wants to be a kid. Who would want the weight of keeping the peace amongst the entire world? His mind knows that it's a job that has to be done, but his heart isn't ready to make that decision, and so he chooses to look out for his own needs. Even though it's hugely understandable, seeing that he's 12, you could kind of say that Aang has Peter Pan syndrome. A lot of people, including myself, struggle with this quite a bit. When faced with the task of growing up and facing the heavy world, we try to prolong that carefree child phase for as long as we can. The task of growing up can be overwhelming, and so we try to ignore it the best we can. My take on this is that nothing lasts forever. There comes a time when we have to look ourselves in the mirror and make the conscious effort to grow up in order to take care of our respective responsibilities. But I do think we're allowed to do this in our own ways, create our own original paths. When grown up, I believe it's important to retain some of those more childish elements of our character. It keeps our hearts light and alleviates that overall stress. Essentially, don't take yourself too seriously. Have some fun while you're here. But at the same time, respect yourself enough to take care of business when it's time. Going back to the heart and the brain, like I said, it seems like their respective goals never seem to align. But when you zoom out, they both serve the same basic function: provide the human body the ability to live. Why should we pit the heart and mind against each other when a decision has to be made? Yeah, sometimes one might have to defer to the other, but we can harness both in order to make the best possible choice and live the most fulfilling lives. The two work in tandem with the body, not individually.
The greatest illusion of this world is the illusion of separation. Things you think are separate and different are actually one and the same. We are all one people, but we live as if divided.
We're all connected. Everything is connected.
That's right.
Aang shows us that you can face your duties head-on in your own way. When preparing to fight Fire Lord Ozai, he's reached an impasse, because he doesn't know if he can defeat Ozai without killing him. His heart is committed to pacifism, but his brain knows that killing him would be easier and more efficient. He consults everyone for advice, even past avatars, and they all essentially confirm his fears. He should listen to his brain and kill Ozai for everyone else's sake. The whole world is telling him to go left when in his heart he so badly wants to go to the right. Lots of consultation and meditation later, he figures it out. Although it basically did take divine intervention, he finds a way to get the job done, in his way. Obviously the road was filled with bumps and self-doubt, but in this particular situation he followed his heart, and he was rewarded for sticking to his beliefs. But all that being said, I think it's important to remember that even when you do make a choice, it's hard to see the fruits of our decision until we've come out the other end.
I don't know the answer. Sometimes life is like this dark tunnel. You can't always see the light at the end of the tunnel, but if you just keep moving, you will come to a better place.
In our day-to-day lives, I can't say whether a choice is right or wrong in the moment. It's a case-by-case basis, and we've all got to make the decision for ourselves. One thing I know for sure is that we should always face our issues head-on instead of running. Trying to escape them will only lead to prolonged suffering, since we'll end up facing those same problems eventually anyway. Listen to those around you who try to help. Take every angle into consideration and then make the choice you feel like you'll regret the least in the end. This is something that I still struggle with, but in the end I guess one can only try their best and live with the results. You are responsible for your own destiny, and when you think about that, it's a terrifying thought. But it's also beautiful. The dreams that we have shouldn't waste away simply because they're unrealistic. Life is for the living, and there's a difference between working to simply survive and working to live. It may be borderline impossible, but set aside some time to work towards the dream you've always wanted, even if it's only a little. Time is undefeated, and it comes for us all, but if we can listen, love, learn every day, only then can we embrace our destinies and become the people we were meant to be.
You know, Prince Zuko, destiny is a funny thing. You never know how things are going to work out, but if you keep an open mind and an open heart, I promise you will find your own destiny someday.